Oh, this one's old, but it got a lot of attention. Family D&D night ends in shambles. My stepdad spent about a week making this world, only for it to be ruined by the murder hobo, which is my brother, and my, honestly didn't seem really interested, mom. He later sent me this heartbreaking message. Well, that's probably my last venture into D&D. I worked really hard to make it fun for everyone, and when everyone leaves the table mad, upset, and irritated, it hurts. I feel like I just spent a lot of time to ruin everyone's day. It isn't really your fault, DM. I enjoyed the world building you did. If my brother wasn't murder hobo-y, then I wouldn't leave upset at least. If it weren't for the party, I would come for the next session. That's the end of the text exchange. A tragedy in 3 parts. This is the worst part about RPG horror stories. Watching people get the spark, get that investment, and then losing it. It sucks, but if you're okay with giving it another go, I encourage you to do so, because dang, when it works out, it is definitely worth it. For the last 3 months, I, male 34, have been hosting our D&D games in my flat. Everything was fine until one of the players, male 33, wanted to bring his girlfriend, female 30, along on the ride, which in itself was not a big problem, so we all agreed that she could watch. She did not want to play herself, as she was, in her own words, too inexperienced. During the session, she came across as very bored and constantly making loud sighing noises too, I guess, to express her boredom, which was very disruptive and, to be honest, childish too. She also had a very rude attitude in general and complained about the choice of snacks and drinks. What really annoyed me after the session, however, 2 days ago, I logged into Discord and went into our group's video game channel just to discover that the girlfriend was talking crap behind my back, calling my place a dirt hole and calling me a psycho, as well as my husband a creep. She probably did not realize that I was in the channel because I use a different name on Discord. I guess I have to explain here, I make paper flowers for weddings and funerals as a side job, so my flat sometimes is a bit untidy, but never unclean or dirty. She apparently found it creepy that a grown man had dozens of paper flowers lying around. Mind you, I put them all on my work desk to make sure the place was comfortable for visitors. My husband came home in the evening and startled her when he entered the living room. While I can't say for sure why she was calling me a creep, it is either because there is an age gap between me and him of 7 years, or because he has a disfigured face due to an accident. I was very angry, and when the players asked when the next session would be, I told them the date and also that the girlfriend was invited not to come since she was very uncomfortable in my dirt hole of a place. By now, everyone else had also seen what she wrote. That pissed her off, and her boyfriend as well, who even said that I should send my husband away too, if we didn't allow spouses to come along anymore. To which I called him an entitled prick and plainly stated that I would no longer host the sessions anymore, as long as he wanted to bring her along. The group is now torn into 2 camps, those who agree with me and those who want to skip the drama and just want to continue playing with or without her. So, am I the a-hole for pretty much making it impossible for our group to continue the game because I don't want this guy's girlfriend in my flat anymore? Edit, by the way, I am hosting because of my husband's disability and don't want to leave him alone if it can be avoided, because a lot have asked why she wants to tag along. I suspect that she has some kind of control issues. Take that with a grain of salt, by the way, please. I'm not familiar with that relationship. And also, I was blown away by how many people responded, and I am sorry that I can't reply to everyone. Thank you for your judgments. I will talk to my group this Sunday and post an update. By the way, unfortunately, the update seems to be that the game did not continue, which, yeah, I can't blame this guy for deciding to pull the plug on that. This is framed as Am I the A-hole, so let's do the thing. Drumroll, please. Not the a-hole. Good God. Why is this woman even coming to this game? She's clearly not enjoying the experience and actively talking crap about the other people there. Clearly, she doesn't care much for the hosts. Why stick around? I don't know if the control freak thing is really the reason, but honestly, I can't really see another explanation. As for her problems with the writer and his husband, I mean, come on, men can't own flowers? Really? That's creepy nowadays? It's so surface level, and it's unfortunate that this woman ended up nuking the D&D game because of her incredibly stupid problems with the host and his partner. Also, as for the actual D&D stuff, I'm okay with people watching my games. Occasionally my friend brings his sister or something like that to check it out. And you know what, that's okay with me. But here's the thing, if that person is being disruptive, it's not going to work out. It doesn't matter if they're not actively at the table. They are ruining the environment, and therefore they need to go. This whole situation is even worse because it's in this guy's house. Just, yeah, end the game. It's not worth keeping it around. Alright, I gotta give you guys the lore. So, last week, we made a video that said, incels give their opinion on asexuality. Published it, it went great. Thanks for the support, by the way. But one dude got a little bit flustered. And he wrote a little bit of a rant. I hate to be that guy, but I want to point out that people should not be using the term incel as a prerogative for sexual stances they do not like. As far as the asexual thing, I was a forensics major, and I can tell you that scientifically and medically, it is very rare. There are basically 4 genders: male, female, hermaphroditic, and asexual. That is one, the other, both, and neither. There are smaller groups, such as relatively normal people, who make such claims of asexuality simply out of fear of social rejection and humiliation, even if there is nothing wrong with them, and sometimes very pretty girls, typically those who develop early, who aren't comfortable with the interest they find themselves getting, and then claim this identity as a way of steering people away from pursuing them in a way they are not yet comfortable with. Some people probably find that deeply offensive, but that is simply what the math and science are like. Look, remember, in an RPG setting, typically claiming immunity to an attack form or something is an advantage. Typically, when this stuff comes up in role-playing games, someone claims, I'm asexual, so this seduction abilities or sexual attraction-based effects won't work on me, which might be situational, but it's pretty bloody powerful when there are whole types of monsters and encounters based around that, which comes up more often than some people are comfortable with. Such a mechanical advantage should be paid for in-game, in a point-buy system. If it's going to be used that way, then it should count as whatever an attack immunity does as part of your build. And if you don't have something like that, your player should be required to have a sexual orientation in one direction or another, unless they take some kind of disadvantage that is equally situational to offset the immunity, as most characters are going to be swayed one way or another, and claiming identity-based invulnerability or whatever is just another form of what we'd call munchkinism back in the old days. Remember, even if the player is asexual, their character doesn't have to be, as the character is not them. I mean, think of it this way. You have this group of heroes for whom sex never comes up, as would be pretty normal. They port into hell and are going through AmITheA's harem. The seducer devils come running out and start doing their thing, and the party cries, We're all asexual now, so we can auto-win. Forget the overlapping seduction attacks and how hard this will be. We shall win through sheer identity. That's pretty bloody dumb. It's sort of like someone trying to spontaneously declare they are part of the Emperor's bloodline or whatever. Sure, it could be technically possible, but functionally, this is raw power gaming. Oh my god. How did I not see it before? Asexuality is going to shift the D&D meta. Yeah, we know. Lock the door. We need to keep this under wraps. If this information gets out, it'll destroy the Dungeons & Dragons game balance forever. Everything in D&D relies on charm specifically. Everyone knows this. No. People have been desperate, struggling to create their overpowered builds. Giant Python summons, Twilight Cleric, Paladin Warlock multi-class crit farm build! But if we do this, everyone will just make asexual characters and call it a day. There won't be any more build crafting. Clearly, this is a game-breaking option. If we take this public, it'll be bad. But if we keep it private, we're not responsible. All of us are responsible. If people could just make asexual characters, we would free them from their pigeon-held builds. We need to spread the word. We can't just keep this to ourselves. If we do one good thing in this world, let it be this. Okay, so how do you want to do this? I'm making the call. Good God. Get me Will. From D&D Shorts.
This is the most busted combo in D&D. Be asexual. Boom! You don't thirst for any type of genitalia, which means you can never be charmed. Because we all know that the only way to charm a creature is to make it want to bang you. That's why the spell Charm Monster is so powerful. It makes everything, brown bears, abyssal chickens, aboliths, beholders, whatever, wants to have sex with you. This is just how the spell works, but if your character is asexual, you don't want to bang that beholder, so it can't charm you. This makes sense. Enjoy.
Cat's out of the bag now. No turning back. At least that's what would happen if anything of what this guy said made any sense whatsoever. Look, charm doesn't need to be a flirtatious thing. Monsters that quote-unquote rely on seduction can be easily flavored to do other things, and besides, having some characters able to shrug off such seductions, would that really be that game-breaking? I mean, how much does it really come up? This guy really wants to force seduction on people who don't want it, which is, well, it's a bit of a red flag, to say the least. I messed up badly last night. No matter how much I spin it, it's my fault. I own up to it. You know, with the benefit of hindsight being 20/20. I allowed my anxiety and frustration with failure to make me act out. I have a challenging but fair and kind game master. He likes to give us challenges, and I relish them, even when the difficult puzzles/riddles make me feel stupid, even when I can't infer all the intricacies of his plots, and even when I prove to be virtually useless in combat. The party is myself, the bard, the monk, the sorcerer, the warlock, the barbarian, and we're all level 7. We're in a short tournament arc where we fight in this magical arena. When you drop to 0 hit points, you're ported out to the bleachers at full health and with all of your non-item resources restored. We're competing for gold and glory. It should have been fun. First few matches were difficult and challenging, but hey, we won. And then last night came. I thought I'd be able to be useful as I rolled a nat 20 on my initiative. I thought it'd let me get to the first move, shut down some opponents quickly. I was wrong. I got a hypnotic pattern off. I caught 2 out of 4 of my targets as they're spread out. Next turn, their cleric engages the barbarian. Next turn, their ranged fighter takes a potshot at me with her bow, and my concentration is gone, because I have no constitution modifier and the luck of someone who broke a dozen mirrors and got spit on by God himself. Next round comes. I attempt to interrupt the cleric's spiritual weapon, so the barbarian isn't taking damage from 2 sides. The enemy's mind-screwy member counterspells my counterspell. I take this as a sign I meant to engage with them. I'm the bard, I'm supposed to be the mind-screwer of my team, right? I mean, I can't let the enemy mind-screw with my team. Then that same NPC starts to mess with our barbarian's mind, and I'm powerless. I try to get them away from the barbarian with dissonant whispers, and fail, not even doing any substantial damage because my roll is that bad. To make a long story short, I kept failing at everything I tried. Polymorph the ranged NPC into a rat to shut them down? Nah, they make the save. Attempt a phantasmal force to keep them at bay? They succeed on their investigation check the immediate next turn because apparently being surrounded by a tornado of fire is just a reason to try and make fire arrows by poking the tornado with an arrow to see if it'll ignite. Everything I tried just failed spectacularly. Meanwhile, we're losing team members, but the barbarian and warlock do manage to take down some of their people, and I'm stuck muting myself on Discord because at this point, I am just crying quietly at my embarrassing incompetence. I'm reduced from the flashy, funny bard to an angry little crapshoot. Even my attempt to salvage my bard standing with the crowd went sour. I tried to roleplay my bard as getting fed up with the little mind-screwy gob crap on the enemy team, whipping out his rapier and going to hell for leather on them with his pathetic damage. I did score the kill, and I thought, okay, this is looking up. I can make this look good. But then, the game master said that the NPC looked at my bard and did the next time gesture of pointing 2 fingers at his eyes and then to mine. I should have been happy about that. I'd gotten under their skin, but I wasn't. It didn't feel like I got under the NPC's skin, even if the GM was conveying that I had. I wanted them to be scared of my bard's wrath and to never want to fight him again, but nope, couldn't even have that. The game came to a halt over my mounting frustration and anxiety. My stress was off the charts, and I couldn't keep it to myself. I tried to argue that Phantasmal Force should have disabled the Ranger for more than one turn, because who the hell doesn't panic when surrounded by a tornado of fire? Trained soldiers don't, and that is what these guys are, says the barbarian, and then launches into a lecture about having known people who've served and had PTSD and what have you. Oh man, am I the only one who gets so annoyed when people say crap like that? Yeah, so anyway, I threw my grenade, it bounced off the freaking door, hits me, and I'm down. My entire team, gone like 5 seconds. We were so close to dying, man. I was ready to lose my mind. You think that's bad? My third cousin is in the army, so she has to deal with actual grenades. Get your video game crap out of here. You would crack her to the pressure of the military. Honestly, my third cousin, she's pretty hot. That's not weird though. Yeah, I know she's my cousin, but she's like my third cousin, so she's pretty far away from the... It felt like a browbeat, like bullying. My own team member couldn't even take my side on this. It hurt at the time, and I snapped about it. The session ended early, with my BS plus some repeated power failures due to weather held it all up. We left off with 2 NPCs standing, a druid with some wild shapes left, and the hated ranged fighter on the enemy side, and just me and the warlock on our side, both of us out of spells and out of options. Everyone's mood was horrible, and it was all my fault. I wasn't having fun due to my repeated failures. I had been ungrateful and snarky about my ruined moment, and I brought everyone down. The GM, whom I value greatly as a friend, was upset, despite his best efforts to show that he wasn't. He's called a hiatus to the game, he's got serious doubts about how he runs it, and straight up said he wasn't having fun anymore during the combats. I know it was because I couldn't keep my whiny mouth shut. In retrospect, I could have avoided this. I should have taken my anti-stress supplements, I should have kept myself on mute constantly when it wasn't my turn, and I shouldn't have tried to be clever. I should have just kept spamming dissonant whispers to try and cause OP attacks while doing some chip damage, and saved all my third and up slots for counterspell. But it's too late now. I may have potentially ruined a game for everyone, and I can't take that back. I'm grappling with severe backlash from my social anxiety, my guilt and stress that's causing me. I woke up with a stress headache, and I can't seem to stop crying over it. I've messaged everyone in our server, but it doesn't seem to be getting anything beyond the GM calling for a pause on the game for 2 weeks so everyone can cool off. So, yeah, cautionary tale for all the stress-prone folks playing D&D. Don't be me. Be better. Hey, by the way, thank you for the kind words. I've apologized to the group. I'm waiting for their response right now. I don't know if it's gonna go well. I think the barbarian at least wants me gone. I don't blame him. My trust in him, in character and out of character, has been kind of shattered. We'll see. Also, I learned that Phantasmal Force is useless as a spell, so there's a lesson learned for me. Now, really, I'm rather a fan of that spell. But anyway, look, it's really surprising to me that this is probably, I think, the first time we've seen something like this on this series. I know a lot of people, like Jenny D, have talked about anxiety when it pertains to TTRPGs. And as a guy with anxiety, I'm surprised I haven't talked about this before. Yeah, there are times where you just really want to shut down while playing D&D, especially if stuff just is not going your way. At its core, D&D has a lot of luck elements. A lot of TTRPGs do, and that means sometimes you're going to be really unlucky. But at the end of the day, you're not a bad person because you're unlucky. You're not a bad person for rolling badly. Hell, you're not a bad person just because you make dumb decisions during combat. It happens. No one is going to be perfect in combat 100% of the time. People make stupid choices sometimes, and that's okay. This happens to me a lot when playing video games. Sometimes me and my party are playing Bed Wars, and we get tilted after our 5th immediate wipe. Sometimes when I'm playing Destiny and doing a raid, I have some anxiety because I'm not making the right choices during combat and not paying attention to mechanics. In times like this, the best thing you could do is just step away and take a breath. Apologize for what is in your control, like your behavior, but accept what sometimes isn't in your control, like your connection issues, or blackouts, or just simple bad dice luck. I was in a play-by-post, forum-based D&D game in which we were students of a magical academy inspired by Magic the Gathering. At this point, most of you are probably saying, oh, you mean Strixhaven. Except this was a homebrew 3.5 edition game and happened to be in the late 2000s. This was before Critical Role or Stranger Things brought D&D into the mainstream, so the player base was smaller and nerdier, and the quality of the The quality of the storytelling tended to be lower on average, though of course, you could still find excellent DMs and role-playing in some games. This wasn't one of those games. The setting was a magical high school, not a college, and player characters ran the gamut of high school fanfiction stock characters. There was the ridiculously edgy guy who chewed human finger bones, which he kept in a little bag like peanuts, even though they cut the inside of his mouth to ribbons and caused blood to drip down his skin. There was the shy wallflower girl looking for any male with a pulse to attach and fawn over, which turned out to be the aforementioned edgy guy. There was the beautiful and mysterious Mary Sue, who was the most interesting and misunderstood girl in the school and involved herself in everyone's business so she could always be the center of attention, oh, so unfairly persecuted whenever anyone didn't want to entertain her. There was even ordinary people who just wanted to play a D&D Hogwarts student and didn't do anything obnoxious enough for me to remember them 15 years later. And then there was the main character of this story. Interestingly, I recognized his username before the game started. He was a regular and infamous poster on the RPG discussion board of another website I frequented, where he'd include a screenshot of Naruto's Shikamaru in every post. That took me like 8 takes, I hope I got it right. That was his makeshift avatar on a board that did not conventionally support them, along with bargain basement objectivist takes, or, my favorite, conversations with his quote-unquote girlfriend using screenshots of Ino, in which he replied to his own posts, switching back and forth between himself and this girlfriend for dozens of posts at a stretch. I didn't watch Naruto, so I'm probably missing some subtleties in his characterization, but I understand Shikamaru was some sort of genius but too lazy to do anything with it, so he seems like an apt avatar for someone who has accomplished nothing in life but wants an excuse to believe they're the smart person in the room anyway. I won't use his real username, so I'll call him Tim Income instead. If you know, you know. Here is when I want to make it clear I don't want, expect, or deserve sympathy for what happens to my character in the story. The DM was taking all comers, so when I saw Tim's name in the application thread, I knew only drama would come out of it. The thing is, I already knew this game was going to be a hot mess due to its teenage fanfic nature, but I applied anyway because 1, I wanted a laid-back game, and 2, I thought it would be an entertaining disaster. I didn't know what was going to happen specifically, but I did predict it would be a mess. And I got what I wanted. For that reason, don't feel too bad about what you're about to read. I played a 14-year-old girl whose backstory and personality is not relevant to the story. Tim Income played a 15-year-old shonen anime character with all those shonen anime traits, if the shonen anime was written by an idiot. First, he had a non-stop internal monologue commenting on how annoying and dumb everyone else was. Second, he was presented as an underpowered underdog, but cunning and devious enough to make up for it, even though Tim Income himself is as subtle and intelligent as a firecracker in a dog turd. And third, he was a complete horn dog, whose first priority was to get laid as soon as possible and set his sights on literally every girl in the class. Now, this game moved fast. Players were firing posts out like machine guns. At the time, I was in university and could post multiple times a day, but even so, the introductory game thread was several pages deep before I could even introduce my character, which I did by making her the butt of some slapstick. I suspect this expression of humility, compared to the other player characters that took themselves more seriously, is what drew Tim Income to my character in particular, since these sort of people are always good at picking out the most vulnerable. When the homeroom teacher gave the students free time to socialize, the thread immediately descended into chaos as player characters began ping-ponging off of each other. Tim Income immediately approached my character, who was sitting at her desk since I hadn't had time to post, and draped his arms around her, introducing himself with an emoji of waggling eyebrows. An NPC took offense to this and told him off, so he cast a spell to turn invisible, swept some papers off some desks to look like he ran out of the room, but actually cuddled up to my character and whispered into her ear, "Don't worry, babe. I'll never leave you." At this point, my character had not even acknowledged his existence. Now, it would be a few hours before I could reply. In that time, other people posted, and Tim Income posted in reply, accompanying his observations of their behavior with descriptions of how he was flirting with my unresponsive character, such as asking her out to dinner, tickling her, blowing in her ear, and all the other standard things one does with people they've just met. When I could finally post, I described my visibly flustered character getting up from her desk and burying herself in a crowd too thick for him to follow, eventually beelining it towards a paladin. Around this time, Tim Income's invisibility was dispelled, so he tickled my character's chin, who still has not said a single word to him, and told her he'd wait for her outside, then stormed out of the room. This put him in a separate thread where one of the teachers stopped him and told him to smarten up and stop being a weirdo with my character, while the paladin escorted her to her next class because she felt scared. I wouldn't even need to wait until next class, however, because Tim Income ended his talk with the teacher, waited for him to leave, and then cast Disguise Self to take the teacher's appearance before re-entering the classroom and beckoning for my character to follow him. My character assumed she was being disciplined for something and followed him out of the class, where he led her to a secluded corner, grabbed her collar, and forced a kiss on her, transforming back into his character with a, "Did you miss me?"
Are we the baddies?
I don't know if he thought this would be a romantic gesture or a slapstick moment, but he didn't expect my character's response, which was to start hysterically screaming and try to get away from him. This never happened in those Japanese animes. Perplexed, he tried to calm her down by stroking her hair and other flirtatious gestures, then lost his nerve and pulled out a scroll, wondering why everyone in the school was crazy but him. The Mary Sue character, remember her, did not miss her opportunity to bust out of the classroom and zero in on their isolated corner and attack him. But he used a scroll of Gias to make her think she was his girlfriend, which isn't how that spell works, but no one caught it, and it was soon dispelled anyway. Now, Tim Income was not actually booted from the game for this. Apparently, this play-by-post suffered the inevitable fate of hemorrhaging players, and with seemingly awful moderation, that's exactly what it deserves. Look, I don't know how play-by-post stuff works, but I've played plenty of World of Warcraft in RP servers, so I know how comfortable people can get in text chat. It's the most, in my opinion, indirect form of communication, and people get way too comfortable saying uncomfortable things when they are barely held to account. This game being open to join is wonderful in principle, but there needs to be some lines or at least some kind of session zero put in place. The 2000s date may explain some of this behavior, especially in an online forum. I mean, goodness, does anyone else remember the Final Fantasy house? But yeah, look, this sort of stuff is creepy and weird. The good thing is that I imagine it's a lot easier to leave a play-by-post game as opposed to like an in-person table. So, that's good. All right, and that's going to be it for today's episode of RPG Horror Stories. Thank you so much to D&D Shorts for joining me on this one. We had a lot of fun filming that skit. I hope you guys enjoyed something a little bit different. If you guys did, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of our content, then you can check out our Shadow over Karakonos actual play D&D podcast. A lot of you have been asking if I've ever run D&D, and I have. It's linked in the cards. And while you're there, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment. They're just flowers to let me know you made it to the end of the video. And hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to me. Email is linked in the description for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, and that's like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Farewell.